Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, Meridia's sudden promotion to High Commander of Rene leaves her solely in charge of the Edaran war effort. With the four families, Knightmare, and the full force of the new city bearing down on her, is there any chance for Meridia? Find out next on the Seventh Valkyrie. Chapter 35. The Night's Last Star. Meridia. The 21st day of winter. The third hour of the Rene conflict. From the dusty command post on Rene's top level, Meridia lifted her spyglass and scanned the rooftops, squinting against the cloudy night for the spots where the smoke rose into the sky, marking the fighting. It was eye-straining work, made even more difficult by the fact that Rene's first and second levels were almost entirely ablaze. Somewhere out in the city, the Thwarps were battering against the Edaran defenses, and concealed deep in the throng was that monster with the midnight black blade that could cut through forces and fortifications like they had never existed. Meridia shuddered. She had entrusted the false wolf with the job to kill Krona's weapon, but she hadn't seen him since. There was no sign of him at the evidence lockup, no reports of Light Corps soldiers throughout the city. What was he doing? With a frustrated grunt, Meridia tossed the spyglass to a nearby attendant and descended the stairs of the spiraling command post, noting a dozen places where battle preparations had fallen short, were being hurriedly completed, or flat out ignored. No one had expected the top levels to see fighting tonight. Meridia was realistic. No one had ever expected the fighting to reach here, not for 100 years, and Meridia cursed at the thought. Even on the front lines, a stone's throw from a seat of thwart power, they had allowed peacetime to lull them into a sense of security. Meridia paused before she exited the command post and entered the street, leaning against the wall and stretching her shoulder. Even with extensive strength and endurance training, nothing could prevent the sheer arrow count of a battle from taking its toll. But she had to persevere. Meridia stepped past a gaggle of guards and onto the street, where chaos reigned, brought upon by a full-scale civilian evacuation colliding with the frantic preparations of a battle gone horribly wrong. And bringing them through it was all her responsibility. Meridia cursed Yosin and his fool officers for trusting Krona, cursed Krona for even existing, and cursed herself for the fact that she hadn't been born with the world-changing powers of the Thwarps. But as she spat on the ground and returned to where a legion of recently promoted officers sought direction, she steeled herself, thinking over her most recent report. The first-floor riverside staircase had fallen, and then the Thwarps had flooded up onto the second floor, where they had crashed onto an unprepared second-floor force that had put all of its men onto holding the walls. There had been a clash, and any second-floor forces that had survived had fallen back to the third floor, where there had been more time to set up defenses and prepare for battle. The overwhelming force of the Thwarps continued to flood into the city from the water, but it had slowed. Yes, the Freelanders had a foothold on the third floor, but for now, the organized retreat of the Edaran defenses prevented them from capturing the staircases leading up to the fourth floor. All across the third floor, squadrons would hold formation as long as possible, where their advantage was strongest, and then retreat to join larger forces, then breaking down into ranks and condensing the force into a smaller space to compensate for any men who had fallen. In time, they would have to fall back up the stairs and then do the same, ceding ground on the fourth and potentially even the fifth, but they would do anything to get the civilians out safely. Numbers of the dead Edaran soldiers were uncountable, so Meridia shoved off anyone who was trying to estimate or report on specifics. She had to focus on minimizing damage right now, and what mattered most was that Edaran losses had softened, and for every foot the Thwarps gained on the higher floors, they paid a steep price in blood, which would slow them even further. Meridia could suffer that trade for now. especially considering reports from the scouts who had surveyed the first and second floors, bringing nothing but grim tidings. Looting, killing, and raping were typical atrocities of war, but the few scouts that Meridia had already spoken with had been nearly speechless. To hear them tell it, the Thwarps were looking to cleanse the entire new city, burning the first 2 levels to the ground and exterminating any Edaran in their way, without mercy or discretion. The fact that anyone had been left behind to face that made Meridia's teeth clench nearly to the point of cracking, but she had to focus on the bigger threat. The Thwarp horde storming the front lines, with their secret weapon hidden somewhere within. Meridia went back to her mental map of the top level, the 5th level, and with a blend of battle reports, maps of the cities, and pure instinct, she was able to get a picture of the battle. The Thwarps had taken the 1st level and the 2nd level, and right now the battle raged on the 3rd, with Thwarps pushing towards the stairs that would gain them access to the 4th level. If the Thwarps made it up to the 4th level, though, they wouldn't have far to go before they were beating on the stairs to the 5th. And from there, if they made it to the top, they would be bearing down directly on the civilian evacuations, which continued but painfully slowly. Every Edaran knew the rules about what to do if an invasion was happening. You take only what you can carry on your back and that of your animals, and you only bring what you need to survive. But for the more fortunate denizens of Rene, the merchants and the shipping moguls and the public officials, the phrase, "all you can carry on your animals," had been taken to mean, just try to force an entire caravan of your belongings through the gate of the city. Meridia had tried to put a stop to that by issuing an order. Anyone bringing non-essential goods through the gate would have them confiscated to rebuild Rene, but that had only led to more arguing and more chaos. Edaran evacuation drills hadn't been for nothing, though. Thousands and thousands had already made their way out of the city and into the surrounding countryside, and they would keep pushing as fast as they could. It just needed to be faster. At this point, if nothing changed in the Edaran defense, the Thwarps would push right through them and massacre the civilians. The compressing Edaran retreat would buy them a little bit more time, but Meridia's search for a better solution was interrupted by a frantic messenger rushing up from the 5th floor stairs. "Commander Firebow! I need to speak to Commander Firebow!" Technically, Meridia was supposed to be referred to by her surname, Barrow's daughter, but she had let that slide already. Some men had a hard enough time reporting to a woman without the name reminding them. A legendary warrior, though? She had seen the name Firebow floating from mouth to mouth, and that gave them hope, which was in short supply that evening. It might have been about to get shorter. "Commander! The Thwarps just broke through on the 3rd floor. We're holding them in the 4th floor stairwell on the riverside, but they're moving past." "What? What happened?" "I didn't see it for myself, sir, but people are saying that the Thwarps, they've unleashed their monsters. It's like nothing everyone's ever seen. It's like the return of a Meridia stepped forward and covered his mouth. "Shouting a name like that could cause a panic. You're heard. What else could you tell me? We've had 3 divisions down there holding the landing. It should have taken ages for them to break through." "3? We'd heard you'd pulled the 3rd to reinforce the 4th floor. That's what they told us. We got a messenger." Meridia squinted, looking across her officers, and then cursed. "The division? Was it one of the Mandarian divisions?" The messenger shook his head, confirming what Meridia had feared. There had been turncoats out on the boats from the Mandarian force. But of course, the Machine King had had moles within the forces in the new city as well. He had just waited until the right moment to show his hand. And if that black blade of Krona had begun to strike again at the same time, Meridia had to move quickly. Why hadn't the false wolf killed her? Where was that stupid motherfucker? Ugh! Meridia gritted her teeth and then focused on the most immediate problem. "Get me every archer who can still pull. Push them to the 5th floor riverside stairs. The Thwarps are going to be pushing there, and we need to make it rain hell on those monsters. You, Tell the civilian evacuation team they need to double time. Anyone without animals gets their own lane out. Non-combat troops, start improving these embankments, and the rest of the reserve forces, to me. Meridia strode off down the 5th floor's central road without pause, guards and retainers and officers chasing after her for more orders and clarification. And though she gave guidance quickly as they walked, Meridia's mind was elsewhere. She needed to focus on the biggest threat first, killing those monster-level thwarps. Most importantly, the Black Blade. Meridia spat. She should have known better than to trust that false wolf to pull it off. When Meridia had danced alongside him on the wharf, she had almost believed he could kill a thwarp that powerful. But that had been foolish. He was probably dead, along with every other soldier in the Horde's path. Her force of soldiers arrived at the riverside, where the ruins of the Mandeko Bridge towered high above the street. But as she prepared to address the mass of soldiers gathering atop the riverside staircase, a messenger was sprinting the other way. "Speak!" Meridia barked before he had done his salute and salutation. He was startled, then Meridia nearly bowled over him, grabbed him by the ear and pulled him until he scrambled and began to speak while she walked. "Sir, thwarps are gathering across the bridge. We heard the order to send all of our archers your way, but we're just barely holding them back." "Fucking what? The bridge is out. Why the hell are you guarding it?" "They're trying to build something. We think they're going to try to finish the bridge." "How many?" "Oh, it's hard to say. They're moving in and out of these little shelters. We're holding them at bay for now, but we need everyone we've got, Commander." There was more shouting, but this time a messenger came from the walls. "Commander Firebow, the thwarps have broken through onto the 4th floor." "Signal the retreat for any man still on the 4th, Meridia shouted, and as soon as the messenger had been able to reach the walls, the horns rang out through the night. "Hold the foot of the staircase and stop their advance. Archers, to me!" "Sir, what about the bridge?" "Leave half of your archers. And if they get halfway across on their cursed bridge, send someone to me. We'll figure it out then." The messenger raced off, and Meridia continued towards the walls, fury on her face hiding a calculated mind beneath. If the thwarps finished building the bridge and flanked them, the Edarans were fucked. But right now, if the Horde broke through, they were double fucked. They had to hold both sides and hold them long enough for people to fall back out of the city. Meridia cursed. She had been commander for 30 minutes and she was already planning around losing one of Edaran's most powerful assets, the new city. She could practically see Yosin sneering. Ugh. Meridia spat, shaking her hand and reframing the story for herself. She had been commander for 30 minutes, and with each passing minute, more Edaran lives were saved. The historians could tell it however the fuck they wanted. Meridia strode up to the walls where homes' rooftops doubled as archer posts, and she scanned the battle raging on the 4th floor beneath her. The many-colored thwarp army spilled out onto the streets in a stream that was quickly growing into a river, probing for any gaps in the Edaran formation retreating up towards the 5th floor stairs. From their vantage point high atop the walls, the Edarans had free rein to unleash everything they could. Boiling oil, stones, flaming charges, the phosphor from the battle lamps, broken blades and rubble. But with every thwarp that fell under their deadly rain, more took their place, and those Freelander defensive formations sprouted up with each passing minute. Meridia glanced to the bridge, where the lights of the battle lamps lit the gap between the unfinished Mandeko construction and the old city forces. A rainbow glow marked the steady progress of the Freelanders' bridge, but it was coming across slowly. Edarans and thwarps were trading fire of arrows and elemental blasts, but for now, the Silver Forces held. Drawing her bow, rolling her shoulder and stepping out onto the edge of the embankment, Meridia turned back to shout to the men. "Archers, pick your targets and aim in packs. I want 3 of you for each target. Speak with each other. Aim for the brightest lights, their most dangerous warriors, and if you miss, you'll hit the Horde." Then she turned, drew her bow to full bore, and let it sing, watching the arrows zip through the air and into the darkness. Far below, a glowing green light winked out. "1," she said. "Any trio who can get more kills than I do myself has a 10,000 crown reward, each!" She fired again, and a blue light winked out. 2, 3, join trios and open fire! Hey there! If you're hearing this, it means you're listening to the public version of this episode. I appreciate you taking the time and your interest in the series. It really helps the algorithm, it helps us grow. But if you are enjoying the show, maybe take a look over at our Patreon. We have uncut versions of the early episodes, access to new chapters before they're released for the general public, and you can shape the future of the series by deciding on new merch drops, bonus content, and more. You can get started for free at patreon.com/Seventh Valkyrie. That's patreon.com/7THVALKYRIE. Hope to see you there.